Good evening, and welcome back to the Jade Histories, Episode 6. I apologize on the long delay of this episode. Many of you have been waiting for a while. Today we explore the first expansion of 1997, Crimson and Jade set. The border frame, as you can tell, is jade colored. The starters for this set are the two factions that I started the game with. The Brotherhood of Shinsei and Yoritomos Alliance. In this set, they introduced the Kehoe card type. I'll explain a little bit more as we move along. From the box text description, in a distant kingdom, in an age long forgotten, Rokugan draws ever closer to its destiny. A fragile sliver of light shines down through the black clouds of doom to find its way to the war-torn Emerald Empire. On the battle-weary fields of Rokugan, the clans have finally realized their folly. But their realization may come too late. Each of the clans must now gather their strength for an inevitable showdown with Yogo Junzo and his ancient master, the invincible Fu Ling. But from the mountains, the Shinto monks bring their mysterious ways to the conflict. And from the south, a mighty army of minor clans, led by Yoritomo, the Mantis champion, arrives at Rokugan shores. One force is driven solely by greed, and one is driven by an ancient prophecy. In the midst of the war, a single tragic death could bring one clan, perhaps all of Rokugan, to its doom. So my first interaction with the game didn't come for another couple of years. But the first clan that I was attracted to was the Brotherhood of Shinsei. And, simply put, I was interested in 1999, the World Championship that year. The finals was 2 monk decks. And I asked the store owner, the tournament director, what won, and he said monks. And I said, enlightenment? And he said, military. And I immediately ordered a Pearl Edition starter for the Brotherhood of Shinsei clan. And later on, after reading some stories, I ordered the Yoritomos Alliance stronghold, or box, for Pearl Edition. And the rest, as they say, is history. So we have a decent amount of cards that we're going to talk about today, both for story purposes and also for as well as powerful cards in the CCG. Along the Coast at Midnight, this was a designed to try to mimic the speed of the Unicorn, trying to give the Alliance an identity. more a flavor card than a powerful card. Yes, it was running some tournament decks in those days, but it wasn't particularly super strong. Because you had, obviously, because of the gold payment. The event, Are You With Me? Now, this is this effect of gold cost of all followers is reduced by 6 to a minimum of 0. Obviously, this actually affects both players. So this symmetrical effect is can be a drawback, but at the time there weren't a lot of follower heavy decks. Most of the decks that typically ran followers were running cheap followers and not expensive ones. So but basically making anything that costs 6 or less for equipping for free is ridiculous. Armor of the Shadow Warrior. So this piece of unique armor is the armor that protected Hidekisada. So as you can tell, the ability on Kasada's version in Imperial Edition, cards in this unit may not be targeted by spells or innate abilities. That's his printed ability. This is his armor, which I think is really cool. Bad Karma. So this card was definitely a powerful card for Dishonor decks. If they had the ability to bring you to -1 or lower, this card was basically a counterspell for, you know, it was ridiculously strong, and somehow got a reprint in a much later arc, and I never expected it to see reprint. Really, a really good card for them. Next up, we have Bandit Gang. So 2 force for 0 gold, lose 2 honor. Okay, interesting. So a free follower with 2 force and lose a couple honor. Okay, good. What's the drawback? Well, after any battle, you have to pay 2 or they're destroyed. That is negated. The cost is reduced by 1 for each bandit hideout you have in play. So this was one of the interesting followers that was actually running those days, because you could play it for free, attack, and then if you didn't want to keep them, you could discard them. So it could protect your personality while it was in play, and then at the end of turn, if you didn't pay them, they'd run away. And actually got a reprint in a later arc as well. Didn't see that one coming either. Battle at Asawa Palace. So this event is both a fantastic search card. Lets you find anyone's spell and put it in your hand and reshuffle. Amazing. But this also has to deal with the final battle at Asawa Palace between the 5 elemental masters. It was a bloody and devastating battle, and we'll get into that. Not sure if it's in this set or in the next one, but we will get to the conclusion of that. Bayushi Tasu. So this personality was credited with saving Bayushi Kachiko's life. Kachiko was told that her husband, Bayushi Shoju, was still alive, and she went to meet him, and she found out that it was the undead undead version of Shoju, and Tatsuyu showed up and destroyed the undead creature in a duel, saving Bayushi Kachiko's life, which is quite important because she is needed for the final battle. Bridge Pass. So while at the time the card was not extremely powerful, 5 gold was a lot for a holding that didn't produce gold. This would be a very important card moving forward, particularly at the end of the Jade story era, as it basically is a entrapping terrain, torrential rain card ends the battle without resolution. I mean, you are blowing up the bridge, so. Clan Heartland. Unique region. This is one of the few regions, again, that saw a lot of play. Basically, this had to be the last province that was attacked or moved into. It was really good protection. You knew this one could not be messed with by your opponent until all the rest of them were destroyed. So, it was pretty cool. We corrupted copper mine. So this is the lion corrupt holding. Cost 1 honor to bring into play. You have to bow and lose 1 honor to produce 1 or produce 2 gold if you're a lion. Doji Riju. This man was an absolute legend in the game. A boxable crane personality, low honor, that's okay. 2 is low for a crane. Crane Clan Samurai, when Riju is tied in a duel, he wins the duel instead. So many duels have I won with Riju. I have lost count. More than the fallen blossoms on a cherry tree. Particularly when this gentleman was paired with Karmic Strike, which the wording in those days was the duel ends in a tie, and then Riju's ability changes that from a tie to a win for him. So you could focus a single card, win a duel against any personality. Your opponent's personality is more than likely destroyed because most of them in those days destroyed, and nothing happened to you. That has since changed, but it was still an amazing thing to see back then. Alright, so let's talk about keyhoes. So keyhoes are a special type of strategy. They had a different frame. They looked a little more like the spells that you've seen previously, except for the border itself is more a red color. Kehoe were primarily designed to be used by monks, but many of them were also you could also play with a shugenja. Giving it some sort of cross playability. These were one-shot actions or strategy. They were one-shot strategies played. They go to discard pile. Effectively, they ended up being. Some of them were quite powerful, but having a separate card type for special strategies was kind of weird, but it did present the flavor that you were looking for. So extortion. This is a Kolat card. The personality may not attack your provinces or target any of your cards, as long as that personality is dishonored. So, again, this is a control card. Could be used in dishonor decks. The biggest drawback, of course, is if the personality is re-honored, this effect is gone. And, of course, there was an easy way back in those days to re-honor a personality, and that was with the Imperial Favor. But it would be difficult to use the Imperial Favor if your honor was in the negatives. So, alright, so this is Gennawa. This is his experience version. 3/4 for 8. Gains +4 bonus when in duel with a ninja, and then targets a ninja or Kolat in a duel, and they can only refuse if they pay 6 gold. So Gennawa is looking for his master's killer, and he becomes more obsessed with finding this person. He believes this person is a ninja or a Kolat, obviously. We'll find out why Gennawa is becoming more and more stressed over finding, wanting revenge as we continue in the story. Yakimo, this is the hero version. Experienced unique samurai, loyal. Will not enter play if you control any Shadowlands cards. And vice versa. May attach the Jade Hand and the Ancestral Sword of the Hantai without paying gold cost. So the Ancestral Sword of the Hantai was a story prize. And it was won by the crab. And that's why Yakimo can wield that particular sword. And it be free, which is ridiculous. And he gets to blow up Shadowlands cards, and he gets to raise his personal honor for doing so. This is also a famous Matthew D. Wilson artwork. since he was the director of the art director for the game at the time. Asawa Norikazu. So Norikazu is a seer, technically a void Zugenja, if you will. Has the ability to cancel and negate an effect on targeting you or one of your cards. If it was played from hand, like if it was a strategy card, then at the end of the turn, that your opponent gets to put it back in their hand. But it was still a great control mechanic, because you don't get to put it back in your hand until the end of your turn, that current turn, which is fantastic for you. This ability would be so interesting that, oddly enough, it would be used later on a stronghold. A little trivia for the future. Now, I think I said in my last video that we had gone through all of the elemental masters that had been corrupted. I was incorrect. I had forgotten about Tomo. So Asawa Tomo, Master of Water, experienced unique Shadowlands. Bow Tomo to send home without bowing all units in this battle containing Shadowlands cards. He must be in battle to perform this action. Well, that's fairly typical. So of the 5 elemental masters, the only one that did not open a black scroll was Asawa Kaede, the Master of the Void. All of the rest of the element masters were corrupted by the darkness. So the clan holding for Yoritomos Alliance was Island Wharf. It was a port. It's 1-for-1, or a one that produces 2 gold if you're a Yoritomos Alliance player. It is not until the gold story arc that the Alliance, renamed the Mantis Clan, as that's the head family, would get a proper 2 gold cost, 3 gold production holding. Still, though, this was pretty good. Kato. So this was one of the sabotaging Kolat personalities. Basically, when you bought him, instead of him coming to play on your side, it goes to your opponent's side, but it gives them the drawback of all of their personality cards cost an additional 2 gold. Sure, this personality could attack you, but we have control mechanisms to make sure he doesn't attack us. Kakita Ichiro. Ichiro is the sibling of Kakita Yoshi and Kakita Toshimoko. Toshimoko's son is Ichiro. So Ichiro is a courtier. Stats are not great. Honor production is, but as a courtier, you can bow for the imperial favor, or bow to lobby for the imperial favor, and this can be done even if you've done so already once per this turn. So while most people think of the Kakita family as the great duelist in the Empire, there is a specific story that if the gates of Kakita Castle are, I don't remember if it was open or closed, on the day of your birth, that you are not, you are cursed to never pick up a blade, or you will die by it, or you will die by the blade. And so the people who have distinctly been born in that specific situation are trained in the ways of the courtier rather than the way of the Aijitsu. Light of the Sun Goddess. Basically, this this event was, I'm going to slow down the Shadowlands player. The clouds broke, and for an instant, a look of fear crossed Junzo's face. Here's another Kehoe in this set. Master the Rolling River. You bow one of your Shigenzers or monks to move a unit from one province to another. Movement was quite key in taking early provinces, and this is one of the reasons I really enjoyed playing the game. There was so much depth and thought to each battle and what could or could not be done. Matsugomon. So this is a personality who is both Lion and Toturi's army. This really showed the shift toward a follower-based strategy. So when you bring him into play, you get to attach a follower to him as well as part of recruiting him, paying all costs. So you could essentially bring him into play and a follower from your hand into play attached to him. There weren't a lot of ways to do that in the game outside of the equip action that you'd use during your own turn. And Gomon, because he sided with Tatsuyu, he can't lobby for the favor. Here's our fire-breathing friend Tokashimitsu. So this version, he gets fire tokens, but instead of being +1/+1 fire tokens, it doesn't say what type of tokens they are. But what he does here is he gets to blow them up to do a ranged attack. And now later on in the game, they would decide that to change the wording of an attack that would be a little closer to the person than a ranged attack. So probably in this day and age, it would be a melee attack, but thematically the same. Moto Sada. 3 4 2 chi, 6 gold. On a line, Bushi, Shadowlands Cavalry, lose 4 honor, battle fear 3. So, Ron Spencer, very long-time magic artist, very famous. I've always loved the artwork of his cards. This was a beautiful piece. So this shows one of the fallen Moto family. Of course, we saw Moto Sume. These are the personalities that rode into the Shadowlands and died for the Moto family, and now they are undead. Come back to fight for Fuling. Now we start getting into the personalities of the Alliance. So Mukami, Wasp Clan Skirmisher, Yoritomos Alliance, 0-2, 5 gold. Bow to produce a range 3 attack. Then remove this unit from battle and return them to your fief. Alright, let me unpack all that. So basically it does a range 3 and then he goes home. Mukami is a member of the Wasp clan. It's a minor clan that was formed by Tsuruchi. We met Tsuruchi back in Forbidden Knowledge. And so the Wasp clan, and I don't think you can tell it in any of the old art, but they wear an armband that is yellow and black striped like a wasp. Sort of their calling. And all of them are masters of the ranged attack. Mukami was one of my favorites. We called the deck a drive-by because that's all we did. We shot stuff and ran away. Naming the true evil. So this, if you have no Shadowlands cards in play, you can name you name the Dark One as your true enemy. You may now bring Shadowlands cards into play. All of your personalities gain +1 force, +2 chi while facing a Shadowlands card in a battle or duel, and all followers have +1 force bonus while facing Shadowlands cards in battle. So this artwork is depicting Hide Kasada standing in front of the emerald, the throne that Hantai the 39th is sitting on currently, who has basically been taken in full control over by Fuling. And I promise you that just does not end well for Kasada. Ogre Outlaw. So 6-4 for 7 was understated for those days. But his drawback was if he's killed in a battle or duel, the player who kills him receives 10 gold to be spent to pay for 1 card until the end of the next turn. So basically, you kill him, you make money. Speaking of money, while this card seems innocuous, I promise you that one Koku was a very powerful card. A fate card that can produce 1 gold for 0 gold. It helped smooth a lot of odd draws with gold costs. This card even saw a reprint in a future expansion many years later, and was so good it got itself banned. Also, side note, this card could be turned in to Five Rings Publishing Group for 1 Koku, which was used to buy cards and other items from the Imperial Herald. Now, I don't suggest you trade these copies in for Koku because, well, you won't get anything for them these days. But still, it was pretty cool. Peasant levees. So when you played this, you get to draw an additional fate card at the beginning of your end phase. So basically, it replaces itself at the end of turn. There weren't a lot of followers that did this. This was the first, but certainly not the last. Rather weak, but very cheap. So now we get down to the clan holding for the Brotherhood of Shinsei. So this is a 2 for 2 prayer shrines. If controlled by a monk player, the prayer shrines produces 1 additional gold for each elemental ring you have in play. So, literally, this holding was a 2 for 2. But it had the upside of being able to be, at very best, a 2 for 6. 2 plus 4 for 4 elemental rings. Obviously, if you hit the 5th elemental ring, you'd win the game automatically and never get to produce 7 gold. But now, you'll find out in a little bit why this was a little bit of a drawback, considering the what the monk stronghold was. Robes of Shinsei. 4 gold may be attached only to a monk. Gain 2 honor. No more than 1 per personality. The robes have +1 force, +1 chi for each ring in play. Not real powerful unless you have a lot of rings in play. Gain 2 honor on a permanent was actually really good in those days, so obviously it did see some play, but not anything game breaking. Ryoshi. So this is a foxclan Shugenja Yoritomos Alliance. So she is the daughter of Kitsune Gohei, the foxclan champion who found the Walking Heart of Fu Ling Black Scroll in the Suba of the ancestral sword of the Fox clan. And later on, Ryosai will go after her father. But right now, she is fighting with the foxclan in the alliance to try to strengthen their current position. Severed from the empire. Severed from the emperor. You cannot achieve an honor victory for the remainder of the game. Until the end of the game, you have the ability to negate the effects of the Imperial favor targeting one of your cards. You lose 3 honor each time you use this ability. So basically, this shows that you were thrown out of the empire, and instead of obeying the emperor's laws, you just lose honor and say, I ain't doing jack and crap. This actually would be a reprint later on in the game's history. Shadow of the Dark God. All players have their province strength reduced by 1. The gibbering thing marched openly through the streets, wearing the colors of the Hantai. None dared show themselves for fear of joining their ranks. Now we come to probably, I'll say, the most famous region in the game, I would have to say. So this is this is a region that when it enters play, you don't refill the province with the card. It's attached to the province, but you can't buy anything out of it anymore. Instead, at the end of each of your turns, you gain 2 honor. Now, this is both a drawback and a bonus. You're giving up filtering more cards out of your dynasty deck to gain 2 honor per turn. But I will tell you, this adds up quick. Especially if you flip 3 of these, 1 in 3 different provinces. 6 honor a turn is nothing to sneeze at. And it was the backbone of a crane honor deck back in those days. Soshi Bantaro. So Bantaro was the person who told Kachiko where he could find Shoju, but he reluctantly did not tell her that he was undead. Also, this is another beautiful Ron Spencer piece of artwork. Stand Against the Waves. This was another powerful card that was designed to punish players for not playing followers and reward those who were playing followers. So basically, the opposing player must bow as many personalities in his army that have no attached followers as you have units in your army. If he's unable to do so, all personalities without followers in the opposing army are bowed. That was an incredibly game-swinging card in those days because the decks that ran followers could literally bow all your entire opposing army. And of course, bowed cards don't contribute force. If the personality is bowed, the followers do not contribute force. So, just brutal. Strength of my ancestors. So, this is another example of a keyhole that you could have played back then. Now let's talk about some of the monks. So, Siwana, 4/3, 8 gold, acolyte of water, and he has 2 abilities. You can bow him to play a terrain card, destroying a terrain card that's already in play. Or you can move this unit to a different province if you have the Ring of Water in play. So there was a cycle of monks that had multiple abilities. One of their abilities allowed you to get a particular ring into play, and the other ability gave you a bonus if the ring was in play. Superior strategist. So this was effectively a tutor card for decks that had personalities that had the tactician trait. Now, in the early part of the game, there weren't a ton of tacticians. But as more tacticians got played, this became a significantly more powerful card. Particularly in the open environment, once we got into late in the Hidden Emperor sets, and then into the late Jade era, this was a very important tournament card. Kehoe. So this is another one of the acolytes. His first ability lets you focus your strike first, no matter who was the challenger, and then the other ability lets you bow him if you control the Ring of Fire to destroy an item attached. This breathtaking piece of artwork is from the late William O'Connor, who did a number of powerful pieces in the early days of the game, including Matsugomon. Tatsuyu, while I wouldn't call him the champion of the Brotherhood of Shinsei, he was the fixed personality within the stronghold, within the box. And his history is he was a retired crab personality. 5/5, 11 gold, 3 personal honor. No unit may assign or move into a battle or no Oni may assign or move into a battle with Tatsuyu. Yeah, that's very crab-like. You don't want none. Alright, let's talk about the strongholds. The Brotherhood of Shinsei stronghold, 634. So it's already hamstrung by the gold production. But the ability is bow when you have when you have fulfilled the condition of putting an elemental ring into play. Retrieve that card from your fate deck, put it into play immediately. Reshuffle your deck. So basically, you had to memorize what each of the 5 elemental rings required you to do to put them into play. And then as soon as that was activated, you could bow your stronghold and go get it and put it into play, as if it was played from your hand. It's a powerful ability, but it was a lot more difficult to navigate with this. Now, I will say that the Brotherhood of Shinsei would get a more powerful stronghold in an upcoming set as we move out of the first of the Clan War story arc into the Hidden Emperor story arc. The death of Tsuko. So Tsuko realizes the mistake of her brethren of following blindly the Emperor, not realizing that the Emperor is fooling. So Tsuko commits seppuku and relinquishes the clan back to Toturi. The Great Bear. So this was the first card that was created by the result of the first World Championship, when Ken Carpenter won with Crab. Obviously, the Great Bear is a reference to Hidekisada, and the retainer portion, this is after he was wounded by fooling in the throne room, and so he's not the same as he was. The Hooded Ronin. Bow to reduce the cost of any 7 thunders to 0 as you bring it into play. So, who is this Hooded Ronin? Well, this Hooded Ronin is the descendant of Shinsei, the original founder of the Brotherhood, and the writer of the Tao. A little teacher, if you will. His family, his descendants, have been in hiding for 1,000 years, waiting for the second day of thunder. Douglas Schuler, as you can see his signature here. So, 7 thunders. It's almost time to meet them all. Wrath of Asano. Here's another Kehoe. This one has got multiple reprints. Bowing a monk or shugenja to produce a ranged attack equal to his their chi. When typically these characters had less force than chi, so when they did this, they would be destroying a card with more force and therefore netting you an advantage. Now we get to the Yoritomos Alliance. 6 province strength, 4 gold production, 2 starting honor. Ability: when you bow the stronghold, you may lose family honor to increase its gold production on a 1-by-1 basis. You cannot can't reduce this honor loss. You cannot use this ability if it would reduce your family honor below 0. So as it stands now, you could, on the first turn of the game, you could lose 2 honor and increase this from 4 gold production to 6 gold production. Now, I promise you this wasn't the strongest stronghold ability, but this is technically free gold, and it was still pretty good. Void Strike. This was a fantastically powerful keyhole for dueling decks, and particularly enlightenment decks, because it basically meant you got an extra focus that your opponent did not in a duel. Winter Warfare. Terrains and units cannot be moved into or out of battles with actions. This was very strong. And even reprinted, I think once in the game's history. It might have been twice. But keeping players from playing terrains and stopping movement was a great ability. Now I get to talk about my favorite character in the game. So, the first major story that I ever read in the game was Private Lessons with Toshimoko and Hotori. And I was really drawn to the crane. But then I read the story of the personality known as the Son of Storms. Now, here, he's just known as Yoritomo. In the next set, or the next non-base set that we'll talk about, which is Time of the Void, he is referred to as the Son of Storms. He is an unquestionable leader of the Mantis clan. I mean, this is a badass pose here. You got the antennas of the mantis. You've got the claws. You can see the eyes in the kabuto, and then you see these massive kama, these humongous forearms. This is an imposing visage. When I read the story of the Son of Storms, I knew at that moment that I would forever be a Mantis Clan player. Or in these days it was Yoritomos Alliance, but if you get time, look up some of the old stories on Kaze no Shiro about Yoritomo. Kanbei. So this is a Mark 10 piece of artwork. He is a Mantis Clan personality. He has this cool little ability where you can change his clan alignment once per turn. This is very handy for playing cards like Charge or Frenzy and other cards that they print later. But particularly, there was some decks that used several personalities that went through its fate hand very quickly. And it did so by almost everything that it did gave a force bonus. Charge, Strength of Purity, Destiny Has No Secrets. And then there were others, but it basically wanted you to empty your hand as fast as possible, get the Ring of the Void into your hand, and then play the Ring of the Void since your hand was empty except for that card, and then draw 5 cards. And then you would literally try to empty your hand again at the end of the next turn. You would draw 5 cards. So you would always have a full grip, and it would be, massive force bonuses. He was an integral part of that. Now, speaking of personalities that was integral to this, a 3/4 3-chi personality for 2 gold, or in those days, I'll pay 0 gold and put a 3/3 into play. Now, he does have the drawback. If when you bring him into play, you have to discard 3 cards. But that typically doesn't matter because, now my hand's empty. Ring of the Void. Play it, draw back up. Now, before I move on to the next one, I misinterpreted this artwork for many, many years. I thought he was looking into a mirror for the longest time, but he's looking into a lantern and looking at a mantis that's on his finger. And don't be dumb like me. Next up is Takune, Mantis Clan Sailor. You can also tell the massive comma that's on his back. He has +1 force for each port you have in play. Yeah, this one did not count your opponent's ports, which I think is terrible. Either do all symmetrical or all non-symmetrical. Obviously, a 0/3 for 6 or 4 gold even was not that great, unless you had a plethora of ports into play. And the last card of the Crimson and Jade set that we're going to talk about is You Walk with Evil. Target a samurai in an same army with one or more Shadowlands cards. The samurai is bowed, dishonored, and permanently gains the Shadowlands trait. So this was a card that punished a player for playing Shadowlands cards in his deck with other non-Shadowlands cards. So that is the Crimson and Jade set. I appreciate you folks joining us for episode 6 of the Jade Histories. I will be back with the greatest story ever told. We'll have a short notation of Obsidian Edition, which was released in August of 1997, just in time for the second day of Thunder at Gen Con, the greatest storyline tournament in L5R history. And then the wrap up with the cards and the story that were told at that event, Time of the Void. Until next time, there is no escape from the tiger.